Hi, everyone, and welcome to Restaurant Tech Trends, where we explore restaurant technology trends with some of the industry's biggest movers and shakers in a rapid fire short interview format. Today, I am so thankful to have the privilege of being joined by Donagh Herlihy, an absolutely legendary CIO. Not only was Donagh the former Chief Information Officer and Chief Digital Officer at Subway, which, by the way, is the largest quick service chain in the US by store count, with around 37,000 locations worldwide and $11 billion in US sales in 2024, 17 billion worldwide. Donagh is also studded with various high level awards. He was inducted into the CIO magazine CIO Hall of Fame back in 2016. He was recognized by HMG Strategy in 2020 as one of the top performing global technology executives worldwide. And he's also a two times Orby Award winner. And that includes a 2024 award where he won the global winner for Orbeez. And for those of you that might not know what an Orby is, it is a highly respected award that is peer nominated, and it recognizes excellence in leadership, innovation, and business value creation through technology, and is exclusively reserved for CIOs at companies that are running over $10 billion in annual turnover. Prior to his time at Subway, Donagh served as the Chief Information Officer and Chief Digital Officer at Bloomin' Brands, which is a multi-brand 1,500 location restaurant company. And when he was there, he led the creation of the consumer digital roadmap, and he also led, I think, the launch of the loyalty platform as well as the e-commerce platform for ordering and for delivery. And to top all that off, as if that's not impressive enough, Donagh also has quite a history in the startup community. Previously, he served as a partner at Seed Funders, which is an angel syndicate that invests exclusively in pre-revenue technology startups. And I can also attest from my experience here as one of the co-founders at Incept AI, Donagh is an incredible advisor, and we're so thankful to have him on our advisory board. Welcome, Donagh.
Hey, great to be with you, Justin. And based on, I'm blushing, but you can tell I worked with some great people over the years. So those awards are for the people who did the work, not for me.
For sure. Well, I have a lot of questions for you, Donagh. I hope we have time to get to all of them. But let's go ahead and start off with your time at Subway. At an organization that is so large, with so many locations, so heavily franchised, how do you balance innovation with operational reliability when it comes to driving technology initiatives?
Wow. So you don't give any easy questions. That's complex. But I think about it on a number of dimensions, Justin. One is the innovation the right innovation? And the three constituencies who need to feel that they get real value out of the innovation or the change, for me, would be obviously the
Mhm.
brand metrics, financial metrics, other metrics for the brand, the guest or the consumer. And they're often where the focus lies. And the third entity that really needs to feel the innovation is improving their life and their experience is the frontline worker. So in the case of Subway, it might be a sandwich artist behind the counter. In the case of the Bloomin' Brands, it might be the server taking your order at the table. But if all three constituencies get value from the change, it's a relevant innovation. And then right innovation, but also the right amount of innovation at any point in time. So I've been in brands, I've walked into a brand where there were 90 digital and technology initiatives in flight.
Wow.
Um, None of them were getting finished. And, we initially met with the executive leadership team and explained basically the human capacity to absorb change and the
Mm.
human capacity to build change, and winnowed it down to, we had a golden rule. We'll have 20 blue chip initiatives each year. We'll focus on 20 big things and then drive that change through. So right innovation, right amount's important. Architectural resilience. So to the extent you can have microservices as an architecture, you can have APIs that can buffer your inevitable legacy platforms from your new digital experiences. You give yourself a better chance of driving change without great disruption. And so working towards a target architecture that's resilient to change is important. The surface area of the change you deploy being manageable. User-centric design. Involving your guests, involving, in the case of, say, a Subway, your franchisees, or a Bloomin' Brands, your servers and your restaurant managers, having them involved directly in design as opposed to design by proxies. Always right team, right talent, right accountability. I'm a big believer in teams being end-to-end, having all of the resources and skills from product design through construction, testing, deployment, and then making sure that those teams that build solutions support the solutions, take the call in the middle of the night if something breaks, and it gives that right balance in terms of the mindset for speed versus resilience. And then just tactically, as you roll out, you test and you feel it's really good and you've got quality, lab testing, but then one store, then to 5 stores,
Right.
then to 50, then to 500. And only when we would have 500 baked in the case of a Subway, or it would be a smaller number if you had less stores in your footprint, but only when you had substantial scale without putting the whole entire business at risk going to full-scale rollout. Underpinned by something I always want to say anytime I talk to people about how I like to work. From the Toyota production system, there was a philosophy called Genshi Genbutsu, which
Okay.
means go and see it in its own place with your own eyes. And what it really means is, say, take a Subway, go work in a restaurant for a week and understand what it is like to manage a lunchtime rush, deal with the
Yeah.
point of sale, redeem loyalty coupons, whatever. And you get a very visceral sense then of where the real issue is and how you can serve your customer.
There's nothing more important in technology than being close to the customer and seeing how customers interact with the technology. I couldn't agree with you more. It's so important to be in those restaurants. Well, you just mentioned a couple of challenges. I wanted to dive into this a little bit deeper, Donna. You mentioned that you were at a brand where there were 70 to 90 technology initiatives that were in
Yeah.
flight. You mentioned dealing with old legacy systems and patching them together using APIs. But I'm curious, as you look back over your career, what are, the largest challenges that you've faced in leading digital transformation at scale? And how are you able to overcome those challenges?
We talked about architecture. Most of us don't have an architecture we want. We inherit legacy, monolithic platforms. How
Right,
can you buffer your change, especially in digital transformation, which tends to be more front office, guest facing,
right.
consumer facing? How can you shrink the tumor, I used to say, that legacy platform, that monolithic platform, how could you over time carve it up into services, shrink the tumor, wrap it with a buffer, an API layer that would take some of the strain of the change and
Mhm.
evolve to a target state architecture? And it takes some discipline. I think it's a really tough job for CIOs and CTOs, but you need to educate in very simple English with stories, with analogies, your leadership teams, the other functions, your business partners, your franchisees, whoever, as to where the starting point is of the journey so that they understand the complexity of the change and they understand the risks of the change and they understand the time it will take and people can row in the same direction. And
Got
then,
it.
no matter how much change you can build at the brand level, it has to land in a restaurant in the hands, inevitably, of an hourly worker who didn't go
Mhm.
into the industry because they wanted to be a computer expert or a digital expert.
Right.
And so, how can you make the change small enough, absorbable enough, and have a window? Restaurants are hit all the time. A new marketing initiative, a new menu item, a new safety protocol. They're constantly having initiatives sent down from head offices into the restaurants. How can you build one calendar, one strategic, almost air traffic control for how it is that the restaurant will absorb the change.